Then she said we need burgundy carpeting, and burgundy isn't a color either. Burgundy is a place. Why do people think it's a color? I mean, New Jersey's not a color. Of course not. It's an odor. I'll let you in on a little secret. When I tell that joke in New Jersey, I just say Staten Island. They don't know the difference.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gritty Hour. I have a very special guest today. I have Shaun Eli from right here in the great state of New York. Welcome to the Gritty Hour, Shaun.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
You and I have similar backgrounds. We both worked on Wall Street. I got myself a nice little antique store getting out of Wall Street, and you've become a stand-up comedian.
Right, where I can, bang into things in antique stores and make fun of antique stores.
That's fine. We like being the brunt of your joke as long as you walk out without your without your arm swinging, But so tell me how you get to becoming a stand-up comedian from Wall Street. Not that
just lucky, I guess. Actually, somebody talked me into trying it, and seemed to work okay, so I kept going.
Mm-hmm. So what do you go? Initially, you started going to what, the open mics and
open mic nights and new talent nights at comedy clubs. I think most people who start in stand-up comedy, it's because some friend talked them into trying it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've always had a desire, even when you were on Wall Street.
Well, I always loved stand-up comedy. I never in a million years thought I'd ever be performing anywhere. I thought, if anything, I'd be a comedy writer.
Yeah.
But that didn't work, but this does. So that's what I do.
Do you have any comics that influenced you?
I get asked that a lot, and I don't really know how to answer that. Everybody thinks that I should be able to say, Richard Pryor and George Carlin, or I don't know that I have anybody specific who influenced me, but I would say I probably looked up to Robert Klein, and I could be the least cool guy in the room by saying I think Jay Leno was an amazing comic.
Yeah. It's funny you said Robert Klein, because right before we started recording, we do have similar backgrounds, because you lived in the Bronx, as I was born and raised in the Bronx, and Robert Klein was from the Bronx.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're going to pick an influencer, he'd be your man. He's a funny guy.
Yeah. Although Mel Brooks, I think, is from Brooklyn. I think Mel Brooks has Robert Klein beat.
Yeah. Well, Mel Brooks is a funny guy. We'll give Brooklyn the edge on that one. So tell me how you physically started your transition. Let the people know how you got into it.
Well, I started by taking a comedy class. That is what my friend talked me into doing. She had just taken the class and said, "Hey, you should do this." And then I started performing, as you said, at open mic nights and new talent nights at comedy clubs. And I got booked here and there. And I said, you know what? I think I can make a living at this.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said goodbye to the day job.
How long have you been doing just straight comedy now?
Since 2009.
Wow, very nice.
Good time to leave the world of finance.
Yes, I left just less than a year after you. So, yeah, I can understand. That was during the crash, 2008 crash, and it was a slow rebound. So
right, it was a lousy time to do anything in banking, because basically my bosses said just sit there and don't do anything. I'm like, okay, there's only so much I can read on the internet before I get bored. What am I doing here?
Yeah, no, I hear you. It seems like we're trying to go full circle, though. It seems like we're getting back to that.
I hope not.
Economically, anyway. But you might have picked the right vein, because people need to laugh in these times.
I'm getting that. During the pandemic, when things pretty much shut down, we were doing outdoor shows, and comics hate outdoor shows because the laughter doesn't echo. It just dissipates. But people are so starved for entertainment, it worked very well, and we were happy to do them.
Yeah. And you have good delivery.
It's harder outdoors. It's actually even harder on like a Zoom show, but we figured it out.
Yeah. Well, you do have a website. In fact, if you don't mind, I'd like to share it to the peeps. Because you can get booked, right? You're open for bookings.
Yes, for anything, for I'm a clean comedian, so I do. Oh, that's you're
That's
right in the middle of the homepage of my website.
that's where I was reading
Yeah.
before we came online. Yeah.
So my website, as people can see up there, the URL is brainchampagne.com.
Yes.
And there's not just a bunch of videos, including one on the homepage, but if you go to writings and you go to expired comedy, there's 50,000 words worth of jokes on my website.
Oh, really? Expired comedy.
Yes, a lot of it's topical humor, which is why I call it expired comedy. But if you
Yeah.
scroll all the way down, you'll see how far you have to scroll to.
So how do you like? Do you have like a pre written set that you perform, or do you go off the cuff? Do you ad lib? What's your style like?
It really depends on the show I'm doing. So if it's at a comedy club and I'm doing, anywhere between 5 and 20 minutes, sometimes, all right, you don't have to scroll all the way down now. You're distracting me as well as the audience. Um, so if I'm doing a short set at a comedy club, sometimes I have no idea what I'm even going to open with. And I wait to see what the comedian before me talked about. And then I can tag on that. If somebody's like talking about, say, being in the hospital and I have doctor jokes, I'll say, well, the last comic was talking about this, and it looks much more spontaneous that way.
Mhm.
But if it's a longer set, then I have to at least have an idea of where I'm starting. And then I try to see, what the audience likes and head in that direction.
So you have like one-liners, zingers that you can throw out there?
I have one-liners. Most of what I do is really storytelling, so it's longer form stand-up.
Hmm.
But obviously, it's still got punchlines all along the way. It's not like a 3-minute story and then there's nothing to laugh at till the end.
Well, give us a story. If I was technologically savvy, I could, when I laugh, I could make the echo, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing here.
Well, I mean, if you scroll all the way to the top of my page,
Top.
yep, go all the way to there's a little arrow in the bottom right. Okay. And
Yeah.
if you click on videos and the blue at the top, now you've got six videos there to watch. Your audience can watch, and a seventh one. Those are all short, and the seventh one, which is a little farther down, is I think 8 minutes long.
Okay.
But they're not short.
Yeah.
That stand-up comedian versus Google, I think, is about 8.5 minutes.
Hmm. So you say you get hired for a party. How do you like have to feel the audience out before you're set, or how does that work?
Well, yeah, private parties are a little different because private parties normally would see if you're telling jokes to your friends, you have a common frame of reference. And so what's funny to your friends is not necessarily funny on stage, but a private party is different because they all know each other and you don't know them. So when I do a private party, I view my job a little differently. Instead of my job is to tell jokes and make people laugh, I view my job as the facilitator of fun. So as long as they're having fun, it doesn't matter who's getting the laughs. So when I do a private party, if people are, interrupting me and they're funny, I don't try to stop that because they're there to enjoy themselves.
Right. So what do you
Whereas at
do?
a comedy club, nobody came to hear Tony in the corner.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. But you do have an opportunity to mingle and see if you can feel them out, right?
I try to avoid that actually. I may ask the person who hired me, what the guests are like, but I try to keep the mystique of, I'm a little different, so I want to stay away from them before the show. A theater owner taught me that. He's basically said, I don't want anybody talking to the audience, singer or comedian, before the show because we want it to be, hey, he's coming out now.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of the big deal.
Right. So give us a story.
It's hard to just pop a story in because
Yeah.
some of them are long. But
Mm-hmm.
all right, so I can say, let me think of what story I should tell you. Give me a second to think about it.
Do you use Wall Street as humor in any of your?
I do. I didn't when I started because I had a day job, but now I get paid to make fun of my former employer. So
That's a
so
beautiful.
I can tell you a little bit about my parents. I can tell you my father went to night school, but he swore it was spelled Knight.
Yeah.
He said he double majored in accounting and jousting. So where do you work when you double major in accounting and jousting? The IRS. That was my father's job.
That's pretty good.
So your favorite bedtime story growing up might have been about, superheroes or princesses.
Hmm.
My favorite bedtime story as a kid was about the federal tax audit of GE.
Put you right to sleep, I'm sure.
Well, that's the point of a bedtime story, isn't it?
Absolutely. I don't know what you dream about, but yeah, that'll get you right to sleep.
Debits and credits, of course. That's what you dream about.
Yes. Credits upon credits. Yes.
And it was funny because in the playground, no 6-year-old wanted to talk about tax law. Couldn't understand it. They wanted to talk about baseball.
So that makes it even more impressive that you became a comedian.
Well,
You have a lot of pent up comedy ready to come out.
I guess so.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm Jewish, and we just have a long history of storytelling. That's pretty much what every holiday is telling stories. And there's only so much oppression you can put up with before somebody tries to make it funny to make it more palatable.
Yeah. I remember seeing on PBS a long time ago. Um, it was a debate in England, one of those hoity-toity schools over there in England, and they had like three top English comedians and against three top American comedians. And the American comedians, I can't remember all three, but Steve Allen was one of them, and Alan King was he batted cleanup. He was the last guy. And the English guys were kind of funny, English humor. And Stephen, what's his name? Steve Allen was kind of funny, but Alan King got up there. I swear to God, he had everybody rolling in the aisles in this debate room, and they voted who would win, and they decided it wasn't England or America. It was New York City Jewish is what won.
Well, that's the way I look at it. I didn't think I had like a New York City centric sense of humor until I traveled overseas and realized some people just don't get what I talk about. But
Yeah,
for the most part, it works. I try to avoid topics that other people, outside wouldn't understand.
yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of the comedians in the past have all been Jewish, right? A lot of them.
I forgot the number, but something like half of, I won't say that Comedy Central's list of the 100 top comedians is a very good list, but something like half of them are Jewish.
Yeah. Well,
And
it comes from
consider, yeah,
water.
we're only 2% of the American population and we're half of the comedians. That says something.
That's a good thing. Yeah. Well, it came out of the vaudeville tradition, I'm assuming, and what did they call it? The Borscht Belt, which is
Yeah,
the Catskills,
yeah.
which is I'm not too far from the Catskills where I'm sitting. So,
Well,
but
I think a lot of it is, comedy comes from oppression.
mm,
People who have a great, I've had a very great life. I grew up in the suburbs. I had two parents who loved me and encouraged me to pursue success. But I think the tradition of comedy is, people who are minorities tend to be the comedians.
mm,
So even if you look at the non-Jewish, look at the white male non-Jewish comedians, I think more of them are like Italian and Irish than Anglo-Saxon Protestants.
probably you're probably correct. Yeah. There's a lot of African American comedians today.
Yeah,
The,
and gay
the
comedians.
funnier
Yeah,
ones, to your point, the funnier ones come from those kind of backgrounds. And like Billy Crystal? He's Jewish, correct?
yeah, I
Yeah,
think so. Yeah,
yeah. So it's a long tradition to be proud of, no?
I think.
Hmm. Yeah.
Listen, it was that or be a doctor.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a stereotype of the Jewish people, also, right?
Yeah, but I was talking to a doctor last night, and she's like, she didn't know that she was going to be a doctor when she went to college. And I said, I thought I was going to be a doctor when I went to college. And then I realized, you're dealing with pussy, sick people all day. Why would you want to do that? What a terrible job.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so do you find the humor in the everyday? Is that
You
basically?
know where, I'm funniest? I think I'm funniest in line at CVS. Something about just standing in line at the drugstore makes me laugh and makes me come up with things.
Do you get a lot of uh, stuff for your routine from there?
No, nothing I can use on stage, but just stuff to make people laugh around me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need more of that in this world, you know? So it seems like I almost ask almost everybody that's a guest on the Gritty Hour, how did you deal with what you do during the shutdown, during the COVID period, the pandemic?
Well, here's what happened. Almost all the live in-person shows went away,
Yeah.
and they're still coming back slowly. So I did two things. I did outdoor shows, which, as I said, seemed harder at the beginning, but people were so starved for entertainment that it worked pretty well. And the other thing is doing shows on Zoom, and I've done a zillion of those. And at the beginning, it was very hard because you don't hear the laughter. And then we learned, because of the time delay, what you have to do is just shut up, hit your punchline. And then if you have to, count to 3 in your head. Because typically what happens when you tell a joke is somebody gets it right away and starts laughing, and then the laughter spreads.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have a half a second or a second delay on Zoom, you tell a joke, they don't hear it for a half a second or a second. And then maybe it's another second before somebody laughs, and another second before other people hear that, and another second before everybody else starts laughing, another second before you hear that. So you have to tell the joke and just wait. And that's agony until you get used to it.
Now, what was that about? Like, besides doing like a one-on-one like we're doing, how would you perform in Zoom? To be a whole room full of people, or?
Oh, I've done Zoom shows where I was one place and a bunch of people were elsewhere, but I've also done shows like an afternoon corporate event where all the employees are remote and the manager says, hey, we're going to give you some fun at noon today. Everybody get on this Zoom. We're going to have a comedian for a half hour. Oh. So I've done corporate events. I've done shows for alumni associations. I've done some shows for charities.
Mm-hmm. Well, to your point, I guess that's what I mean when you were saying before about one guy will laugh and that'll cause other people to laugh. You don't get that effect in a big Zoom situation, right?
Well, you do, but it takes a few seconds to do, so it's just complicated.
Would you mind if we played one of your videos whilst we're?
I love being a comedian.
Go right ahead.
I also really love talking to audience members after shows. But one thing all comedians hate is when the audience wants to tell us jokes. Now, our friends know not to do this because that is not how it works. Like, after you have a great meal in a restaurant, you don't go into the kitchen and make Kraft macaroni and cheese for the chef. After your plane lands, you do not fly the pilot home. After the Mets lose, the fans do not take the field and make the Mets lose all over again. After you confess to a priest, he does not turn around and confess to you. Now, maybe you should. Be a very different world, but that's not how it works. So, last summer I was taking a seaplane flying lesson, and seaplanes are a little dangerous, so my best friend Mark, we've been best friends since high school, he said, after the lesson, call me up. You know how, like, 40 years ago, if you flew somewhere, your mother would say, call me when you landed to make sure you're okay? Right? Like she wouldn't hear about a plane crash? My brother used to fly in business all the time, and every time he went somewhere, I would call my mother up, and I would say, Mom, did you see the news? And scare the hell out of her. Until I told her something from the news that had nothing to do with the plane crash. That is how you cure an over-worrying Jewish mother. So Mark came to my house last summer for a barbecue, and all my friends were sitting in these $7 plastic chairs I got from CVS. Now I know some of you are thinking, Shaun Eli, you're a rich, famous comedian and you have $7 chairs? But these are great chairs. A major, famous international celebrity has the exact same chairs. I know this because a few years ago they showed his estate on the news. This is absolutely true. Saddam Hussein and I have the same chairs. But Mark is over 300 pounds. So he did not want to sit in a plastic chair. So he took one of the rusty metal chairs from under my deck, and he went out and he put it on the lawn, and it had rained the day before, so the ground was kind of soft. and the legs are like thinner than this. And he sits down on the chair, right, it sinks right into the ground. And I don't believe in laughing at the misfortune of others, but this could have happened to anybody, and it was hilarious. But my friends are glaring at me because they think I'm laughing at him because he's over 300 pounds. So to show them this could happen to anybody, I pull the chair out of the ground, and I move it a few feet, and I go to sit down on it. Now, of course, I'm worried that it's not going to sink into the ground with me. So I sit down on the chair really hard, and it doesn't sink into the ground. No, the legs break and the chair collapses. And nobody is laughing but Mark. So as I said, Mark and I have been friends since high school, and every time I call him up, I say something silly when he answers the phone. So I called him up after my flying lesson, and I said, I would like to order a large pie with ham, pineapple, and what's left of my dignity as a New Yorker shredded across the top. And Mark says, who's Todd Mirsky? And that may be the beginning of a joke that I've not heard, so I said, I don't know. Who's Todd Mirsky? And Mark says, you're using his phone. And I say, no, I'm not. This is my phone. I bought it new. I've had the phone for a year. I've had the same cell number for 10 years. And he says, well, my caller ID says Todd Mirsky. So I say, hold on. I call him back. Still Todd Mirsky. So I go home. I call my landline. Yeah, I still have one. Sue me. So I call my landline, and it says Todd Mirsky. So my cell phone carrier is Google Fi. And Google Fi, they don't have their own towers, but they have contracts with 2.5 other cell phone companies to use their equipment. It's with T-Mobile, Sprint, and US Cellular. Yeah, that's the half. You probably didn't even know they're still around. So I call Google Fi and I say, take Todd Mirsky's name off my phone and put my name on it. And they say, that is not a feature that we offer. And I'm like, a feature? And they say, yeah, that is not a feature we offer. So I say, my car has a sunroof. That is a feature. My car also has reverse. That's not a feature. For those of you who don't drive, let me give you a different analogy. If you tell me that your girlfriend is gorgeous, she's got beautiful blue eyes, that is a feature. If you tell me that your girlfriend is gorgeous, she's got 2 eyes, both on her face, one on the left and one on the right, in the region of her nose, that is not a feature. That is how girls have come from the factory for at least 50 years. So I go back and forth with Google Fi, literally 100 emails back and forth, can't do anything. So I think about what to do, and then I realize WNBC TV here in New York has a consumer reporter, Linda Beccaro. Her segment, you're familiar with this, her segment is called Better Get Beccaro. So I send them an email. Not a minute later, they call me up. And they said they would love to feature a comedian on their segment. Now, I realize Google may be a giant tech company, but they're in for a fight. Because NBC is owned by Comcast, a cable company. Nobody is meaner than a cable company. So Google is in for a fight if the cable company actually shows up. But they do. Linda Beccaro shows up with a cameraman and a producer, and I realize, I've got Beccaro. And I show her this stack of 100 emails that back and forth with Google that I've printed out. And I say to them, I say to the camera crew on camera, I realized it would probably be easier to change my name to Todd Mirsky than it would be to get Google to fix this. I say talking to Google Fi is like talking to a 3-year-old. The answer you get has nothing to do with the question. Timmy, where's your socks? Cookies! Unfortunately, I don't have an end to this story. I think Todd Bursky has it. But that's okay, because on NBC TV, they showed a clip of me on stage in a theater telling jokes, which means that my cell phone bill is now tax deductible. Thank you very much.
So the iPhone is not Jewish enough, eh?
That's basically it. My parents said they wanted a more Jewish phone, so we invented one.
Putting a stupid Supreme Court decision to good use. So that's topical.
Yeah, well, this is an older Supreme Court decision, but yeah, they've been in the news a bit lately.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. There's a lot of things in politics that you can definitely get some humor out of if you.
Well, that one was not that political. I try to avoid political humor on stage because no matter what you talk about, you're going to piss off at least a third of the audience.
Yes. Yeah.
So I try not to do anything political. In the US, overseas, people want to know where you stand. So overseas, I would answer their questions and do a little bit of political humor.
Yeah. Well, you're smart to avoid it here. It's overheated. It seems no matter where you go,
Yeah.
whether you're in Walmart or in Congress.
Well, I actually opened for a right-wing political comedian. And I thought, well, how do I break the ice with them? Because they didn't come here to see me. They came to see him.
Mhm.
So what I did when I opened is I said, the guy that they came to see, he'll be out in about 20 minutes. And I'm going to be telling jokes for about 20 minutes. And the pay for somebody, an opener for 20 minutes is about $500. And I'm not complaining. I'm perfectly happy to earn it. But $500 for 20 minutes is $1,500 an hour. And you would think that a guy who earns $1,500 an hour would be a Republican. But I think it's perfectly reasonable that I should only have to work 20 minutes a night, and that makes me a Democrat.
Very nice. Very nice.
And that just broke the ice and everything was fine.
Now you got me wondering who the right-wing comedian was.
Oh, his name's Chad Prather.
Okay.
He's more, he's not popular in the Northeast. He's from Texas, but he basically was a motivational speaker. And then people said, you're funny, skip the motivation and just start telling jokes. And he recorded some videos sitting in his, Ford F-150 ranting on YouTube. And he got famous and started booking theaters.
Yeah. You have a YouTube channel as well, don't you?
Yes, it's Brain Champagne. I try to stick with the brand.
Yeah, I like the Brain Champagne name. That's it.
I wanted something memorable, and it seemed to work.
Yes, it does, and it encompasses a good visual. So people can check you out on YouTube. Brainchampagne.com is what we're sitting on right now. Unfortunately, the audio doesn't work, but as I said before, I'll add one of these to the back end or the front end. No, probably the back end of this podcast. You know what, Shaun? I'll put it right in the middle of this podcast.
Okay.
And I know you're appearing in Sellersville, PA, on the 24th of September.
Right. I've got a pretty slow summer. I've got some private shows over the summer, but my next public show, as of now, is in September.
And if you want to do something different and you throw in a party for your guests and you want to impress them and have them have a good time with a different approach, maybe give Shaun a call. And because I did see your phone number on this thing, isn't it? No.
Yeah, if you scroll down, not only do I have my phone number on there, but my phone number is actually, it should be, wow, is it not on that page? Okay, I've screwed up because I'm supposed to, because that you're on my, I should have my phone number on every page and you're alerting me to the fact that I don't.
Well, that's what I'm here for,
Yeah, so thanks for letting me know. I got to fix my website. But my phone number is 914-IT'S-FUNNY, which is a great phone number for a comedian.
Absolutely. 914, it's funny. Easy to remember, like Brain Champagne.
Yeah. Well, I studied marketing.
So you're do you have any tours coming up or?
Yes, I'm going to be in New England a few times this fall. I'm going to be in the Boston area at the Mosesian Center for the Arts in Watertown. I'm going to be at Spruce Peak Arts Center in Stowe. And I'm also talking to a theater elsewhere in Vermont, and I'm not going to mention their name because they haven't signed a contract yet. But I've got that. I'll probably be in the Mid-Atlantic states also this fall.
Okay, so book him while you can, because he's a busy man.
Yes, I will do shows. I will do private parties. I'm a clean comedian, so I can do corporate events.
Yeah, if you want to, like I say, have something maybe different in your next party, maybe hire Shaun, and he can loosen up the crowd, so to speak.
Yes,
Well, I meant to ask you, what's the name of the place in Sellersville, PA? Do you know?
it's Sellersville Theater.
Sellersville Theater. Okay.
Yep.
So Brain Champagne's going to PA.
Yes, and I went to college in Pennsylvania, so I've got stories about Pennsylvania.
Where'd you go?
University of Pennsylvania.
Oh, very nice. Okay. So do you miss Wall Street at all?
I miss having employee benefits and a 401k plan, but I don't miss alarm clocks. I don't miss having to go to work with people I don't want to work with.
And
And I
getting on the train too, right?
right. And I dress pretty well for shows, but I certainly don't miss not being able to wear jeans to work.
Yeah, yeah. Where was you? Where did you work physically? We might have run into each other down
My last job was at an Israeli bank, Bank Hapoalim, and that's the one I make fun of when I'm on stage.
there. Okay. Well, you had mentioned when we were discussing over the emails, what was the name of that place you worked? I was just wondering where you physically were.
Oh, Midtown.
Oh, in Midtown. Okay,
Yeah,
so we probably.
45th and 6th.
Hmm. Yeah, I was down. I was down in Lower Manhattan. So, all right. So, again, we'll incorporate one of these videos into the podcast, and maybe I'll splurge and do the 8 minute one.
Up to you.
Yeah. So I do appreciate your time tonight, and we look forward to seeing you on the road. Maybe you do some TV, get some TV
Uh,
appearances.
if you can get me booked on a TV show, that would be great.
No, I'd book myself first if I could.
All right.
All right, Shaun. Thank you so much for your time tonight. It was a pleasure having you on, and we look forward to seeing you down the road.
All right. Thank you very much. Nice
Okay.
talking to you.
Nice talking to you, sir. Thank you.